Hi there, this is Craig Havikhurst. I'm sitting here in the Music City Roots chat room with Jim Lauderdale, excited to talk about a new album coming from him in June called Reason and Rhyme, a bluegrass record and an exciting return to bluegrass for Jim. How are you
I'm
today?
great.
Good. We don't usually get to sit down like this.
We don't.
should do it
This
more
is
often.
a nice luxury.
Do I have it right that the record's coming out June 21st?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, back to bluegrass for you. You've bounced back and forth and periodically revisit this genre you love, that we all love. Why this? Why now? And how does it relate to kind of your life dipping in and out of bluegrass music?
Well, as a kid, I started playing banjo when I was about 14, and my goal was to start making bluegrass records, and that didn't happen by luck of the music biz. And I didn't get a bluegrass album out till years later, and the first one was with Ralph Stanley and the Clinch Mountain Boys, so that was worth the wait. But I actually began my writing relationship with Robert Hunter on that album. I tracked him down through a friend of mine named Rob Bleetstein and just sent him the message that I wanted to see if he would write with me for Ralph Stanley. I knew that he and Jerry Garcia were big Stanley Brothers fans, and so I'll tell you more about that later. But this record, just I want to try to do a bluegrass record every year I can, because I have a lot of catching up to do from when I was a teenager wanting to make bluegrass records.
And because you kick songs out so fast that there's a backlog to be recorded. Talk more about this relationship with Robert Hunter. I mean, it's been very fruitful for you, but he also is something of a mysterious character. I mean, how do you come together with him?
Well, when he sent me a lyric called "Joy, Joy, Joy," back then, before I did the first record with Ralph, I put a melody to it, and that's our process. Robert does the lyrics, and I do the melodies. But sometimes he comes up with some added things to the songs that really make them much better. He'll say, hey, how about, and throw out a little bit, and it definitely improves. I mean, he's a grand master writer. But we wrote a couple for the first Ralph Stanley record, and then he came to Nashville for about 3 months, and we wrote about 34 songs, and then I whittled those down and made a record called Headed for the Hills, and there were 2 bluegrass songs on that, and then there are 2 more on the next Ralph Stanley record, Lost in the Lonesome Pines album. And we've written, I was on tour with Elvis Costello last summer and over in Europe, and when I got back, I was just really fired up to write. And so Robert and I had written a song before that tour to pitch to Ralph Stanley, a gospel record, and we wrote a song called Fields of the Lord, and we were too late to get it to Ralph. And but I loved that song, and so I thought now is the time for us to do a whole bluegrass record. Last May, I put out a record of our collaborations called Patchwork River, and that was an electric record.
Right.
And so I thought this trilogy of ours, of acoustic, electric, and then just solid bluegrass would be good. So I got a hold of Robert and started sending him melodies, and in about 10 days we wrote 18 songs.
From a distance, or do you get together for these?
For this, it was from a distance. For Patchwork River, most of it was, I went out to California on several occasions, and we wrote those there, most of them. So, so this was all by internet.
This is one of the most fruitful relationships you've had with a co-writer.
It
You've co-written a
is.
lot, but I mean, it seems like this is one that's produced whole bodies of work.
It is. I guess we've written at least 60-something songs
Wow.
together.
And then some of these, there's really striking characters, really big themes, and some whimsy and some almost surreal, funny stuff. I wanted to ask you about the song "Tiger and the Monkey," which is just nuts. And what did you think when you saw those words?
Well, I'll tell you, I was hoping, because I would sometimes come up with a couple at a time and send them to him, and it's kind of a testimony to his brilliance, I think, as a lyricist. I mean, I sent him the melody. I didn't know what it would be like at all lyrically, and then he comes up with Tiger and the Monkey, and it just blew my mind. I was just filled with joy when I saw that lyric, because it's just great.
No, it is borderline insane, but not quite.
Right,
It is
but a
really
good
lot
insane,
Of,
though.
yes,
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you about the opening track, "Cruel Wind and Rain." Why did it wind up in that opening spot there on the record?
You know, it just seemed to have the flow of the sequencing. That just seemed to be the right one to start off with, and that was one of the, once we got rolling, that was one of the first ones we wrote.
It's got a title that almost harkens back to his years writing for the Grateful Dead, which is
Yes.
how he became so well known.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he's like an encyclopedia of American music,
No kidding.
and so he really, his roots and old timey bluegrass folk go so far back.
Does he actually play? I'm curious what it
He,
does
oh
he sit
yeah,
around the
he
guitar and a
does. Yeah,
keyboard and
he plays, and he hasn't toured in a long time, or put out a solo record in a long time. But he does great when he decides to go out and tour.
Right. Now, you worked with Randy Coors, your friend and longtime compadre, on this
Yes.
record, as you have on many recent records, and a really interesting band that he helped put together. And we'll talk about some of the players, but just tell me the story about how the record got.
Well, as soon as I finished and kind of whittled down the 18 songs to 11, I called Randy on a Thursday afternoon and I said, "Hey, I've got these new songs with Robert Hunter. Want to do a bluegrass record. I need to record it on. If we do it, and I kind of put this time deadline on things, because of a lot of reasons. But I did have this time deadline at the time, and I said, we have to record it on Sunday, and then I have to have it mixed and turned in by Wednesday. and then I hung up and I thought, I don't think it's going to happen now. We'll just do it later. And then later that evening, he called and he said, I've got a dream team of players together. We'll start at 10 a.m. at my studio. He's got a home studio called Slack Key Studios, where he does a lot of records. He's a great producer. He's done all of my last bluegrass records, and he's a fantastic singer and dobro player. Yeah. And so anyway, so I get this call and I thought, wow, well we've okay, there's no turning back. We got to do this record. And I had a gig in St. Louis the night before and got up at like 6 to fly in and just changed clothes and went straight to the studio, and boom, we did it. And so we recorded it all in a day, and I had to just fix a couple of vocal things the next day, and then he started mixing, and he had it mixed in 2 days. And he really, I mean, I think it was like one of those marathon mixing sessions where, I mean, I don't think he slept much for a couple of days, and he just, so that was the fastest I'd ever done an album. And so I'm just really so happy.
That's the way
with
they
it.
used to do it.
Yeah.
And the dream team includes Mike Compton on mandolin, Jay Weaver on bass, Scott Vestal on banjo, Tim Crouch on fiddle, Clay Hess on acoustic guitar, and that is indeed a Nashville dream team.
It is. And Ashley Brown, Randy's wife, is singing harmony on one too.
Fantastic.
And yeah.
Well, then just talk about kind of release week, late June. You've got a few shows surrounding it.
Yes, we're going to do a show the day after release here at Music City Roots. And then Friday night, I'm going to play the Grand Ole Opry with the band and then play the Station Inn. And we've got a lot of stuff going on release week. And then over the summer, I'll be playing more and more festivals are coming in. I'll either be taking the band out at festivals or a trio out, or sometimes I'll be doing solo stuff, but more and more bookings are coming in, you know, as people are hearing the record.
Great. Well, if you haven't seen Jim Lauderdale's acoustic bluegrass shows, they are fantastic. The album is Reason and Rhyme, out June 21st on Sugar Hill Records. Jim, thanks a lot,
Craig.
Talking to us a few minutes about it.
Thanks.
All right. See you later.